title is The Self Leadership Advantage. Master yourself to master your life. She is a force of empowerment, helping high achieving women cultivate self leadership and unshakable confidence. Through her signature ramp or method, she equips professionals with the tools to break free from limiting beliefs, take control of their lives, and align their goals with their values. Her powerful keynotes and coaching programs ignite transformation, inspiring women to lead with charity, resilience, and purpose. So, yes, the stage is all yours. You can start the presentation. You can start your
Okay,
presentation.
sorry, you were cutting out there, so I was just waiting for the go ahead. Thank you. Okay, so am I good to go?
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, hello everybody. Hello everyone, thank you for being here today. I am Emra Logan. I'm a speaker, self-leadership coach, and I help women thrive unapologetically so that they can create the life that they deserve. And today, I'm here to talk to you about the self-leadership advantage. Master yourself to master your life. So let's begin. You know, people always tell me, no matter where I go, Emma, you don't really look like much what you've been through. And my first thought is, well, thank you. I wear the trauma well. But they are correct. If they would have met me way back when, at my lowest point, where I completely hit burnout and hit a wall, they might have not recognized me either. But there was a time in my life where I didn't recognize the person staring back at me in the mirror. I'd lost all my confidence. I had zero sense of self worth. And life had stripped me down to believe that I couldn't even begin to build up myself again. I wasn't leading my life in any way. I was in hardcore survival mode and barely surviving it. But then I realized something. All those years of being a kid, growing up, I realized that Disney had lied to me. Disney lied to all of us. Prince Charming was a myth. He did not exist, and nobody was coming to save me. And if I wanted to do something about my life, I would have to be the one to save myself. And that's when I discovered the power of self leadership. So I love this quote: mastering others is strength, mastering yourself is true power. We spend so much of our time trying to control, right? Things outside of us, whether that's our circumstances, our careers, or even our relationships. But what if that true power, the kind that creates lasting success, the kind that creates clarity, confidence, isn't something outside of us at all? What if that true power, the key to navigating life's peaks and valleys, is learning to master yourself first? Well, that's what self leadership is. Self leadership is the ability to take charge of your own growth, take charge of your own choices and your mindset. It's about being able to lead yourself before you lead anybody else. Because without it, we'd be in a situation where it's just the blind leading the blind. And I don't know about you, but I've kind of been there before, and that's not really what I'm looking for. So think of self leadership as the difference between being reactive to life and just kind of drifting through, and intentionally creating the life that you want to live. But my story here today isn't really so much about what I've been through because, we don't have time for that. But it's more about how I found my way through. And it stopped, and everything started getting really, really good the moment I stopped trying to control everything around me and started focusing on leading myself. So, what happens when we don't have self leadership in our lives? Well, the research is clear. People who lack low self confidence, people who don't really have a high level of self awareness, and people who are not able to really manage their emotions. These are the things that hold people back in life the most, and most people don't even know it. Look at this stat right here. Studies show that 95% of people believe they are self aware. Really? It's only about 10 to 15% of people who are actually self aware? I know, it's terrifying. 8 billion people, 85% of them just walking around on autopilot, walking around repeating the same patterns over and over again. A majority of them not even knowing why. It's a little scary, I know. But on the flip side of that, the research also finds that people with high self awareness, they're more confident, they're better at making decisions. And organizations that are led by people that have a high level of self awareness, they outperform all the other individuals. They have better team engagement, they have stronger communication, and they get the highest profits. So, self leadership is self awareness, sorry, it's not just something, a skill, a nice little thing to have that we can put in our back pocket. Self awareness is the advantage. Why? It's going to give you an edge over 85% of the people who are already roaming around unaware. So without self leadership, though, we do stay in cycles of fear. It leads us staying in cycles of self doubt, perfectionism, and my personal favorite, overthinking, and the CPTSD just likes to do its thing. But we struggle to make decisions. I know I sure did. We shrink ourselves to try and fit into spaces that don't really serve us. And worst of all, we end up letting life happen to us instead of leading the way and letting life happen for us. But here's the truth: life doesn't always hand us easy wins. That's kind of the way it is, right? Kind of how this game goes. But sometimes we will be feeling great and we will be at those peaks. And other times we won't be feeling as great. We might be at the valleys. We might want to stay there a little while just while we feel some stuff. But the key is how we choose to navigate those peaks and valleys. And that choice is ultimately up to us. And no one knows this better than, the GOAT himself, Michael Jordan. Before he became the GOAT, he actually got cut from his high school basketball varsity team. Imagine that moment in time. Michael Jordan just accepting his fate. Oh, I got cut, I'm done. No. Instead, that man, he used that as fuel. He decided he was going to outwork everybody else. He was going to train longer. He was going to push himself further than what anybody else expected him to do. And that decision, that internal commitment, didn't just get him back on the team, but it made him a living legend. Now, let's be honest. We're not all out here trying to be NBA champions. We're going to let Curry and everybody else do his thing. But we have all had moments in life where we probably felt rejected. Maybe we didn't feel worthy, or we felt like we weren't enough. And the question is, do we let those moments define us? Or do we step up and do we lead ourselves through them? And because self leadership isn't about waiting for the perfect conditions, it's about mastering your mindset, taking charge of your choices, and stepping into the version of you that creates your own success. And Michael Jordan's success, wasn't just talent, right? It was about identity. Like, he decided who he was going to be. He showed up every day as the person he believed himself to be. And not only that, he believed in his vision that he saw for himself before anybody else did. Because let's be real, if you don't decide who you are, somebody else will decide that for you. And if you don't know your values and you're not rooted in them, then life's going to pull you in a million different directions. Why? Because clarity is key. So let me ask you this: who do you want to become? Not just what job do you want, not just what are the goals you have, but at your core, what kind of person, what kind of leader are you committed to becoming? And to figure this out, we have to start looking at our values. Why? Because they guide our choices, they shape our identity, and they help us keep us aligned. Because when life comes and those hurricanes throw us off track, our values are going to be what keeps us aligned and set in the right direction and moving in the right way. So if you could narrow down your values just to 3 top core values, what would they be? Would it be integrity, courage, honesty? If you could pick 3 core values that would be your legacy, that you would use as a compass, what would they be? Think about the people that you admire the most. Usually, The things that we admire about other people are the values that we can want for ourselves. So that's a clue. So you can always start there. But your values are your compass. They guide everything we do. They guide every action, every step we take forward. And knowing your values isn't enough, though. Not only do you have to know your values, but then you have to build a life that reflects them. Otherwise, what's the point? We're not really practicing what we preach, are we? So, and that's that. And starting doing that starts from the inside out. Think of it like building a house. A strong house, we need a foundation, we need a sturdy structure, and the right finishing touches. The same is true for you. This is where self leadership becomes real. Because where you don't define who you want to be, where you don't just define where you want to be, but you start trying to build this life. And I know this because this happened to me. And I'm going to show you how to do this from the ground up. Now, don't listen, you're not going to have a contractor's license after this, but I am going to show you how to build a house. Okay, so I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine a house. Imagine a beautiful home, strong, tall. Now imagine that home without a foundation, cracks forming in it, the roof, barely hanging on for dear life. Because that was me at my point in life. And that might be you at some point in your life, or maybe right now, who knows? But when I hit rock bottom, this confident, authentic version that stands before you today, yeah, she didn't exist. Like, not at all. I was a former shell of myself, emotionally, mentally, physically, just completely drained. I had spent years of my life building my life on a shaky ground, on a faulty foundation. So when life happened and them storms came in, everything just collapsed. The problem, I'd spent so much time trying to fix everything on the outside, whether that was trying to prove my worth or seek validation or chase success, people pleasing, whatever it was, that I never took the time to build a solid foundation on the inside. And I had to learn how to build myself from the ground up. And this is where I invented the Ramar method. And the Ramar method is a reflective journaling method that you can apply to different areas of your life. And it's to trigger deeper introspection. Because why? Because we don't know what we don't know. And if I knew now what I'd known back then, my life would have been a little bit different. But through this, I learned that through reflection and intentional action, that you can uncover the foundation of who you are, the authentic you, the real you. And using this method helped me rebuild my self worth, my self acceptance, and my self confidence, which just so happened to be the three pillars of authentic leadership. So, that kind of worked out well. But I'm going to show you how to start to build your house today. So, when we think of a house, what's the first thing that we need? Foundation, right? That's your self worth. Your self worth is your foundation. What is your self worth? Well, your self worth is not attached to anything outside of you. It's not attached to anything that you own. It's you. You are worthy. Knowing that innate knowing that you are worthy simply because you exist. That is your worth. And a house is only as strong as the foundation that it stands on. So your self worth is your foundation. And if it's shaky and you haven't rooted in that self worth, anything that you build on top of that is going to be faulty and probably crumble at some point. So when I decided to apply the RAM-R method to my self worth, RAM-R, by the way, stands for reflection, awareness, management, and repeat. And through this process and doing this continuously, this is how I was able to increase my awareness and expand my reflection, my thinking, everything about myself, to be able to see what it is that I needed to make changes, see what areas that I needed to make changes in. So when I started to apply the Ramar method to my self-worth, one of the first things I had to ask myself is, when did I start believing that I wasn't enough? Like, where did that belief originate from? And as I would go deeper into my awareness, was this belief even true? Because a lot of the times, the beliefs that we believe about ourselves, they're not true. Maybe it's something that someone's sown a seed, maybe in childhood, and we've just gone on through life believing it. If you actually sit and question whether these beliefs are true, most of the time, you'll find out that they're not. So when I moved into the awareness phase, I realized that my self-worth was conditional. I tied it to so many things externally that I'd made it conditional. For years, I'd measured my worth by how much I achieved or, how other people saw me. But when everything in my life collapsed, so did my sense of worth and so did my sense of value. All went down to the ground. So, moving into the management section of this, I had to learn how to reframe my inner dialogue because I have CPTSD. And if you've ever experienced CPTSD, the circus going on in the head with the inner dialogue. I'd say it's a fun time, but I would be lying. So this was a challenge for me. But I started challenging that self-talk, that negative self-talk, because he is not my friend. That voice in my head is not my friend. And by challenging that negative self-talk, I then started shifting my focus from seeking approval to being able to recognize my own worth. Moving into the repeat phase, I was like, okay, what can I do to make this a daily practice so I can recognize my worth, so I can ingrain my worth and build a solid foundation? So I decided that I was going to make commitments that I could repeat as an affirmation to myself. What I decided to do was write them down on post-it notes and stick them on my mirror so I could see them every day, because we have to get those synapses snapping. We have to start to rewire the narratives that are already up there. So in the repeat, my first commitment became I am enough as I am, not because of my achievements, not because of what other people think of me, but because I exist and I am worthy. I am enough as I am. And this became my first commitment. Without a solid foundation, nothing else holds. So once you build that self worth, then we can move on to the next step. And what's the next step once we've got our foundation? Well, that becomes our structure. And what is our structure? That is self acceptance. So a house needs strong walls, it needs a defined structure. We need a roof, right? This is self acceptance, owning your full story, your strengths, even your flaws, accepting every single part of you, the good and the bad. Learning to accept you and your story. So when it came to the Ramah method and applying self-acceptance, because for a lot of us, looking in the mirror, being honest with ourselves about the things we don't like, it takes a lot of courage. It does. We have to give ourselves a little self-compassion for that. But when I looked in the mirror and I was reflecting, I had to ask myself, what parts of myself am I actively rejecting? What parts of myself do I not accept? And going into the awareness of that and taking that deeper, I became conscious of just how much energy I was wasting not being fully myself, hiding myself, shrinking myself, trying to make other people feel comfortable in my energy because of their own insecurities. I also realized that a lot of the time when I was standing in front of the mirror, I like to tear myself down quite a bit, which doesn't benefit anybody. But that was also parts of myself physically that I wasn't accepting. But I'm so used and conditioned to doing this because I've not got the awareness yet that this is what I do, my continual pattern. That it was really eye opening to see just how mean sometimes we can treat ourselves without even realizing it. So when I moved on to the management part, this is where the real work happened. I had to start to learn to embrace my imperfections, all of them. Instead of beating myself up about past mistakes, I took the time to start rewriting that narrative. Instead of standing in the mirror for minutes and just tearing myself down, I started standing in the mirror and finding things about myself that I actually liked and I appreciated. Why? Because it makes a difference. It makes a difference. When it came to the repeat portion, I had to think about what would my second commitment be. And I decided it would be I don't have to be perfect to be worthy. The more I lived this truth, the more I'd repeated this to myself, because now I had two post-it notes on my mirror, the more I was able to accept and learn to, and for the first time in my life, actually learn how to start to love myself correctly. And that was eye-opening. That was a game changer. So once we have the foundation and once we have the structure and everything is in place, what do we need next? Well, after that, now we need the details. We need the fixtures. That's your self confidence. The windows, the doors, the light that brightens up the house. That's your self confidence. The way you show up in the world, the way you trust yourself, how you follow through on the commitments, on the promises that you make to yourself. All this makes a difference to your house. So, moving into the reflection part, I had to be really honest with myself and ask myself if I truly believed in myself, what would I do? How would I show up? If I knew there was no way that I could fail, how would I be showing up differently? And the awareness that I came to, which was, kind of a hard pill to swallow, was that I'd been stuck in a fear of failure for so long that I didn't even realize it. I wasn't taking action because I was waiting to feel confident enough to take the action, which is not the way it goes. I had to learn that the hard way. Confidence comes before action. It comes as a byproduct of action. And I needed to show up even when I wasn't ready to. I needed to get the courage to be able to step outside my comfort zone and lean into that discomfort. Why? Because that's where the magic happens. That is. That's how we do it. So, how did I do this? I just moved into the management part of it. I was like, okay, I need to start small. Why? Because I don't want to set myself up for failure because that's going to knock my confidence. I want to make sure I am setting myself achievable goals so I can use it as almost social proof to boost my confidence. That's what I started doing. I started taking small steps, bold steps, small steps. I started putting myself out there more. I started speaking up. I started setting boundaries with people I needed to set boundaries with. And each time I did it, I built that proof that I was more capable than what I thought. And that became my third and final commitment. I am capable of taking bold action. You see, confidence is a muscle and you have to exercise it. And the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So every time you take action, every time you reinforce that belief, you're going to increase your confidence. So, what would your three commitments be? Think about it. When I committed to this process, I was reflecting, became more aware. I learned to manage my emotions, which was a big deal for me because in the past I wasn't so great at that. But it didn't just change. Doing all that stuff didn't just change how I saw myself. It changed how I began to show up in the world. I'd rebuilt my confidence. I made bolder decisions. I was stepping out into the world as this new, authentic version of myself for the first time in my life. And I was no longer waiting for anyone to give me permission to lead. I was leading. I was building my own house. And you know what? It felt great. So your house is your life. And the truth is, nobody is coming to build it for you. If you don't lay that foundation, if you don't build those structures, if you don't turn on the fixtures, install the fixtures so you can even turn them on, then you're going to be living in the dark for quite a long time. So your life, that is yours to build. And when you choose self-leadership and you choose to rebuild yourself from the inside out, something incredible happens. You don't just change, you create change. Think about it. When one person steps into their potential, they naturally inspire other people to do the same. Why? Because they create this safe space that make people want to do the same. It's like a domino effect. Because confidence is socially contagious. Researchers found that confidence spreads within groups. So if you're in a group and there's one person that is really high self-assurance and really confident, everybody else in that group is going to benefit from that. So when you elevate yourself, you elevate the people around you. And this is the ripple effect in self-leadership. When you commit to your own growth, it doesn't just benefit you, but it benefits all the people around you. And whether you realize this or not, you're already influencing the world just by being who you are right now in this moment. So the question then becomes not who is it that you want to become, but what kind of legacy do you wish to create? What kind of impact do you wish to have on the world around you? But self-leadership isn't something you can just do one time and master it. I wish we could just all wake up and feel super confident and we love everything about ourselves and we got this, we're worth it. But that's just not how it works. You have to build it, you have to reinforce it, and then you have to expand it brick by brick. And here's the truth: this is not something that you have to do alone. The most successful people, whether in life, business, or leadership, they surround themselves with people who challenge them, people who uplift them and inspire them, because they know that transformation happens faster when you're in the right environment. And this is my ripple effect. This is exactly why I created the Thrive community. And this is a community for ambitious women who are ready to step into their power and rewrite their stories and their futures. And the reason why this is my ripple effect is because this program is more than just a coaching program, it's a movement. The Thrive Collective, we don't just talk about change, we implement it, and we implement it together. No more of that fake women supporting women. This is real women supporting real women who want to make a change and make a difference in the world for the better. So if you want to surround yourself with women who are thriving, every time you do that, inevitably, remember, you're going to thrive too. So one thing I want you to remember is your ripple effect begins with you, but it expands when you link arms with people on the same path. And in closing, I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote from one of my favorite artists, from my favorite song, Mr. Michael Jackson. Thank you. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Remember, true change starts within. When you lead yourself first, you watch the world around you transform. So what do you want to do? Who do you want to become? What kind of legacy do you want to create? And I challenge you to make one choice, to take one small step towards building and creating the legacy that you want to leave on the world. Because the most profound impact you can make starts with the person looking right back at you in the mirror. And with that being said, just like my favorite artist said very nicely at the end of the song, oh, make that change. Thank you.
Thanks, Emma, for the enlightening speech today. So, we do have a question from our audience. Here's the question: how does self leadership influence both career success and personal fulfillment?
Sorry, what was the first part before personal fulfillment?
How does self leadership influence both career success and personal fulfillment?
Sorry, I keep missing. You keep cutting out. I missed that first part. What on personal fulfillment?
Personal fulfillment.
Oh, well, I'll answer the personal fulfillment part. Well, self leadership, it gives you purpose. That's a part of it. When you dive into this work, it's more of a lifestyle than anything. You commit to your values, and through your values, you find out what it is that is important to you and maybe what's not so important to you. And I think that's the evolution of the growth journey that we go through. Whenever you find people on healing journeys or anything like that, we go through that stage, and it's really good at helping you find clarity and guide you towards your purpose. And it's what started me off wanting to be a speaker and, share my story and help other people. Like, I didn't really have so much a sense of purpose before I got on this journey and started doing this work. And once I did, everything just like clicks into place. So I think when it comes to personal fulfillment, you get clarity more than anything.
Thank you so much for answering this question. I hope whoever asked this question, I think they got the answer. So thank you so much for joining this first day Global Virtual Summit 2025. And please do join our next speaker sessions as well and engage with your questions. Thank you. Please do join our next speaker, Linda Anderson.